Chapter 21. A Wizard Scorned. The greasy-haired man could not stop wringing his hands, his eyes darting back and forth between the pair of massive mountain trolls and the other couple that stood scowling at him, most likely trying to decide which pair was more of an immediate threat. Magharine, who had always been a strong proponent of proper hygiene, watched him in disgust. His black robes were stained and shabby, and pungent body odor emanated from him in waves. He had a long, crooked nose and dark, beady, deep-set little eyes. In short, he looked like a weasel who had been rolling in muck. The man's name was Crysin, an amateur sorcerer who Grisland had seduced, or threatened, with promises of power, Heisenthor's replacement in Hagmere. He had arrived with the trolls first thing that morning to announce the arrival of Father Grisland. Since that time, all Druania had been holding its breath. It was nearly noon. Scowling, she looked to Meru, her fellow ambassador and leader of the Drokka'lfar. "Trolls," she said acidly, not bothering to lower her voice. "He sends us trolls and this filthy worm to keep us company while we wait. Why not send a few imps as well, and showcase his entire collection of subhuman vermin?" The filthy worm was doing an admirable job of pretending he had not heard the comment.
"We can only hope he has a good explanation for his actions,"
Meru replied, stoic as usual.
"As for making us wait, patience will serve us best in these dealings, I think."
"Perhaps he is attempting to locate the remains of the last sorcerer he sent down here to spy on us," she replied with a pointed look to Crysin. This time, Grisland's servant looked as though he might be physically sick. It was another full hour before the wizard himself finally appeared on the balcony atop the wide rock stairs. He paused at the railing to let himself be seen. Crysin cleared his throat to announce his master's arrival, but found, much to his despair, that the air had mysteriously left his lungs. He wheezed instead, going to his knees in an attempt to draw breath. It took a withering look from Meru before Magharine reluctantly allowed the sorcerer to breathe. "His voice grates on me." Grisland looked positively regal in finely cut robes of the deepest red. "That's a new color," she thought. Combined with his rosy cheeks and the glow from the lava below, the dramatic ensemble gave the impression of the late afternoon sun poised at its apex before it descended to plunge the world into darkness. The look was topped off with a pointed red hat. He did descend the stairs then, gliding gently down the steps with a smile on his face. Even his bushy white beard and dimples did not spoil the effect that he had obviously planned. The pageantry was lost on Magharine, who had expected something of the sort from him. What she had not expected was the ease with which he floated down the stairs, his feet never once touching stone. She knew exactly how much effort it took to support one's own body in the air, and it was a feat that she herself had not had the power to achieve in over 2,000 years. Grisland made it seem effortless. Her pulse quickened as recognition that something was dreadfully wrong dawned on her porcelain face. She gripped Meru's arm fiercely.
"Be cautious,"
she whispered.
"All is not as it seems."
The lore-master cast her a sidelong glance, confusion evident on his lined face, but there was no time to elaborate as Grisland came to a halt before them. He remained hovering slightly in the air as he addressed them. His smile was kind, full of patience, compassion, understanding, and confidence.
"Hello, Maggie."
All of the choice insults she had prepared for him died on her tongue, his blatant display of power leaving her speechless. Grisland had always been one for spectacle. The bloody rituals of the Nefarin people, who had worshipped him as a god, were infamous, but he had never been foolish. If he was flaunting his strength now, it meant that there was nothing in Druania that threatened him. She certainly did not. She had once been the strongest of all the mages, but her power was now a trickle of what it had once been. Meru controlled Spakovia, however. Grisland had to have deduced that the stone lore was his to command.
"You must be Meru, the great and powerful leader of the Drokka'lfar."
Meru bowed.
"It is an honor to address one of the brothers,"
he replied respectfully.
"Is it?"
Grisland chortled, turning his attention back to Magharine.
I had no idea there was still a place in the world where the inhabitants showed proper respect for our position. Is this why you choose to live underground with these, primitive beings, to be worshipped in the fashion that you deserve?"
He was baiting them. They were treading on dangerous ground, and she knew it. Meru, however, did not.
"As one who has lived a long life, you have undoubtedly learned that respect grows when reciprocated. Worship is something else entirely."
Grislin smiled sadly.
"You see, Maggie, this is the sorry state to which Alamon has brought us. We raised the stones for them, and gave them the opportunity to thrive. Yet the insolence of these ungrateful, disobedient mortals keeps them from recognizing us as their superiors. To think that this creature would presume to lecture me. There was a time when all knelt to us, as they should, but Alamon has transformed us into a laughable order of simple caretakers. That is why I have taken it upon myself to replace him as the head of our order."
Meru chuckled.
"To say a thing does not make it so. I do not claim to know the mind of your brothers, but my senses tell me that they will continue to follow Father Alamon."
He was not taking the matter seriously, but Margarine knew better. She had felt the massive drain on her abilities, and there was one explanation that made sense. It was a possibility that she had refused to acknowledge until now. She was suddenly afraid that the wizard was very much in earnest.
"What have you done?"
"What I did has needed doing for a long, long time,"
Grisland replied.
"We are not so naive that we—"
Meru began.
"Be quiet,"
Margarine cut him off.
"What could you possibly want from these people?"
Before Grisland could answer, a very disgruntled Meru jumped in.
"I will not be quiet. The Drokka'lfar are my charge. It is I who will steer their course, regardless of what this wizard wants."
"What I want is simple,"
Grisland said to Margarine, as if the loremaster had not interrupted.
"I wish to lead a united Alnorda against the enemy, under my command. That includes the Drokka'lfar. Think about it, Maggie. We could take back the south and crush the jealous creations as we should have done long ago. They have hidden children of their own now, who swiftly grow in numbers and infest the world while we sit back and do nothing. I will not be a useless father, but one who takes back for his children what has been lost. I will be a father who reclaims what Alamon let slip through his cowardly fingers, and I will use the jealous one's own power against them to do it. But first, I must have the support of every living soul in Alnorda. To control them properly, I believe they should have a father and a mother who rule them side by side. If you wish, I will give these mortals to you, these Drokka'lfar," he continued, as though gifting her livestock. "You can be their queen. You cannot tell me you have forgotten what it feels like to command an entire people. The memory of such power is not so easily lost. Together we could lead them to total victory and rule Iriania as we were always meant to do."
"Please,"
Margarine pleaded.
"that time is long past. These games of power you would have me play once drove me to the brink of madness. I am no longer the woman who once longed for such things."
"You are the same," Grisland told her confidently. "Alamon has not misled you completely. I can see it in your eyes. Some things never change, as my feelings for you have not. Rule this world with me, Maggie."
"And if I refuse?"
"I will send an army to wipe these innocent people from existence."
Somehow he managed to make the threat sound apologetic.
"Why? They are of no use to you dead."
"If they will not follow and fight for our cause, they are no use to me or anyone else alive. I will not leave traitors and cowards to grow strong and nip at my heels while I make war against our real enemies." Magharin could think of nothing to say. She was trapped, and they both knew it. She would give anything to save the Droka, her life even, but what Grisland suggested...
"At first I thought that you were merely ambitious," said Meru into the silence. "Now it is clear that you are mad. If you send arms against us, you will find that there is steel beneath our peaceful exterior. We are a free people, and we will never, never be ruled by the likes of you. I will not allow it."
"A noble speech, O mighty Lawmaster. But I do not believe that you have a choice in the matter, little Droka man."
"We do not fear your armies."
"Armies?" Grisland appeared amused. "I need no army to depose you. It is not my armies that you must fear, my dear Lawmaster. You see, before the people can have a queen, they must be free of your inept mortal rule. That is why—"
"Wait. If you leave the Drokka'lfar in peace, I will go with you. I will be with you."
Meru looked at her in disbelief. "That is touching, my dear," said Grisland. "But the winds of change blow in the north. It is your destiny to rule, as it is mine. We will be together one way or another. I have always known it. But first I must cut away the ties that bind you." He turned to Meru. "This world has no more use for you. Your kind has fulfilled its purpose, and now the age of the stone-wielders is past. May the thoughts embrace your mortal soul."
"We will see what Spakovia has to say about that."
With that, the old Droka slammed his oaken staff down, and a crevice immediately opened in the ground beneath Grisland's feet. The cavern shook as the wizard hovered in the air above the crevice, amusement playing across his kindly features. Then lava spewed forth from the opening, encasing him in a shell that quickly hardened into solid black rock. The sorcerer, Crysin, along with the trolls, made good their escape up the back staircase as soon as their master disappeared from sight.
"Crush him!"
cried Magharin. She added what strength she could to the battle, her magic a leaky faucet compared to the torrent of power Meru wielded through the stone. The basalt coating that now surrounded Grisland groaned under the pressure Meru applied. The lore-master's features contorted with the strain of being a conduit for so much power. It seemed impossible that anything could survive such an awesome force. Then the groaning abruptly ceased. Meru took a step back.
"What is it?"
"The stone. It will not answer my call. Another has taken the power and is holding it away from me."
The thick shell that covered Grisland exploded outward. Magharin was able to protect herself, barely, with a weak shield of air. The lore-master was not so lucky. Small shards of rock embedded themselves in his dark skin as he was blown backwards. He cried out in pain, hitting the ground hard and sliding dangerously close to the flowing lava. Grisland floated leisurely to the ground between them. "Did you think your borrowed magic was a match for me?" he chided. "Fate is an unforgiving adversary, is it not?" Meru struggled to reach his feet, stiffening suddenly as he was caught in an invisible grip of power. The staff flew from his hand, catching fire and quickly burning to ash as it descended into the river of molten rock. His erect form rose into the air, dangling precariously above the glowing river.
"Please,"
Magharin begged.
"I am yours. Show him mercy, and I will be your slave. Is that not what you have always wanted?"
Grisland regarded her coolly. "I have enough slaves." There was a loud snap, and the lore-master's head fell limply to the side. His lifeless eyes stared at nothing.
"No!"
Grisland lowered his arm, and Meru's limp body descended to the rocky ground in front of the fiery stream. "I am not a monster. His body may rest with the others of his kind." Magharin ran to the departed lore-master's side. Clutching his shoulder, she buried her face into the fabric of his robe, sobbing brokenly. Though they had not always seen eye to eye, Meru had been her closest friend for hundreds of years. He had been the embodiment of what a leader should be. the perfect mix of honest, kind, just, fair, and firm. The Drokka'lfar would be devastated by his loss. Grisland snickered. "Come, come, Maggie. Do not mourn for an insignificant casualty of this ancient war we wage. What is he to us? Life among these people has softened you. Mortals die, even those who have borrowed immortality." When she did not respond, he floated over to her, hovering. Reaching down, he stroked her long, dark hair as she wept. "I grant you 10 days, and then I will return. I expect you will have come to your senses by that time. You may hate me at first. I am prepared for that. But once you realize what I am offering, when you remember what it means to wield such power—" He smiled. 10 days, he repeated, and then floated away. 10 days, thought Magharine. That was how long the Drokka'lfar had to prepare for war, and there would be war. She had been ready to give herself to Grisland gladly to save them, but the wizard had made one horrible mistake. He had killed the father of her child. Dego said his goodbyes to the widow Chesba, whose husband had been killed in an accidental cave-in, with a promise that he would stop back in a few days to check on her. The swelling around her ankle, which she had sprained by stepping wrong while trying to pick a plum that was just out of reach, had receded to the point where she was able to put pressure on it, but she was still having a difficult time navigating the pillar to trade for food. The villagers had all pitched in to supply her with care packages, and it was Dego's duty to deliver them. He gave her one last assurance that her son's growth spurt was perfectly normal, thanked her for the tea, and made his way steadily down the pillar to his home. He had been as polite as he could as she spoke in detail of her departed husband, but his mind could not help wandering to more personal matters, namely, the disappearance of his daughter. Zaria was a bright, resourceful girl, more than capable of taking care of herself. Still, she was his only child, and his heart could not help but be heavy with her mysterious absence. An extensive search had been mounted, and he held out hope that both Zaria and the loremaster's son, Guan, would be found soon. His position in the community did not allow him to neglect his duties, or he would have joined in the effort himself. The best that he could do for now was pray every night to the great thoughts for her safe return, and to comfort his distraught wife. He had expected to find Fiega home, perhaps accompanied by one of the many visitors who had come to console them since the ordeal. He had not expected to see the people who were there now. Magharine sat with a dark look on her face, surrounded by her personal guards, Django and Malfear. Fiega's look was unreadable. Dego braced himself for the worst. "You have found her?" he asked quietly. "No," replied Magharine. "That is not why I have come." He allowed himself to breathe, and then remembered his manners. "Our home is yours, of course," he told her with a polite bow. "Would you like some tea?" "No." Her tone was firm, almost harsh. He wondered suddenly if he had done something wrong, but could not think of what it might be. "Your presence is an honor," he began. "May I ask why?" "The people think highly of you, Dego," she interrupted. "Many say that you are the wisest among them." He did not know how to respond to such an unexpected compliment, so kept silent. "I, however, have always thought that you were a coward. What do you say to this?" The word was foreign to him, but the way she used it made it clear that it was not complimentary. "I do not know what is this coward. If I have offended, I am sorry." "Let us see if you understand this, you stupid Drok'a. What would you do if I ordered Django to hurt your wife?" "Why would you do this thing?" he asked, now thoroughly confused. "Let us say that it brings me pleasure. Django, beat her until she begs you to stop." Django moved menacingly toward Fiega. Heart racing, Dego stepped in his path to block his way. "Please do not. It is wrong." The look in the warrior's eyes was indecipherable, but he halted. "Did you hear me, Django? I said beat her until she begs you to stop." Django moved forward again, and suddenly Dago's claws were at his neck. "You will not!" he shouted. "I have welcomed you to my home, but that is no more. You will leave now." Adrenaline was coursing through him. He did not understand what Fiega had done wrong, but he knew that she was a good person, and that this was not how the Drokka'lfar dealt out justice. If she was guilty of a crime, the lore master would address the issue at the next Sabado gathering.
What are you going to do, Dego? Are you going to kill him?
Django pushed forward until Dego's claws dug into his flesh. 5 little rivulets of blood ran down the warrior's neck, staining the collar of his shirt.
I will do as I must. You will not hurt my wife.
Makareen stared at him darkly, her eyes penetrating. "Stop," she commanded finally. Django relaxed. Dego took his hand away from the lanky warrior's throat, but stayed squarely put between him and Fiega.
"Forgive me,"
said Makareen with no trace of emotion.
"Meru is dead. With the disappearance of his son, it falls on you to lead the people in these troubling times. The elders ratified the decision unanimously an hour ago. I had to know that you possess the courage it will take."
Dego stared blankly, hoping beyond hope that he was in the midst of a nightmare from which he would soon wake.
"The defenders of the stone are at your disposal. They will follow Django and Malfir, who will follow any orders that you give them. You have 10 days to gather every man, woman, and child in Druania, and take them to the lake city of Duholdair, where we will prepare for war."
War?
He asked in confusion.
"I do not know what forces the enemy will bring, but I will do my best to slow them before they get to you. If I am successful, I will meet you at Duholdair before the 10 days have passed. If not—"
She stepped forward and placed her hand gently against Django's throat. He shivered. When she removed her hand, the cuts that had been made by Dego's claws were gone.
"May the thoughts be with us all,"
she said cryptically, before exiting alone. Too stunned to do more than stare, he watched her go, then frowned. When had she developed a limp?